delighted to chair this panel. This group of people, I call them sort of the hidden heroes of the sort of entrepreneurship spin-out world, because Andrew rightly talked about the chicken and egg situation. We're definitely at the egg stage here, where without these people, the ideas never come to fruition. So my first introduction to a TTO officer was someone out of Queens, and I said, well, how many projects would you be working on at any given time? And they said 40. I said 4. No, 40. So the workload that these people have to actually take on board to get those gems to us to take forward so that the funnel is full is immense. So I just want to say a word of thanks, first of all, for you guys and the work you do. So I'm going to introduce Rhys Bowley from Swansea, George from Nottingham, Michelle, Beza from Strathclyde, Michelle from Bristol, apologies, and Faraz from Surrey. Okay, so maybe just to open up the questions, so maybe I'll start off with Faraz, first of all, in terms of, the question to everyone is, what role has ICURe played for you guys in terms of commercializing the technology that you have coming into your departments?
I think ICURe is, as of now, it is basically the pathway that we use for commercialization and spinning out. So my role is actually a little bit upstream. So I look after impact acceleration account funding. So in that, we do the sort of technology proof of concept type, we provide funding for that. Then from there, the natural, once the product has sort of been, sorry, not the product, the technology has been proven through the IAA funding, we then basically say, okay, you're probably at the right stage to now look at ICURe. Obviously, you've got to get the team together, you've got to have your entrepreneurial lead, you'll have the academic lead, the business advisor, and really it comes down to that entrepreneurial lead. If you can find that individual within the research group who is motivated to move it forward towards commercialization and spinning out, then without hesitation, it's like, okay, your next step is ICURe. We typically engage with, come in at the explore point within the ICURe program. But it's fantastic.
Yeah, and Michelle, your experience?
So I'm not part of the TTO. I'm a member of the academic senior team with institutional leadership for enterprise and innovation. So I'm speaking really as an academic and also actually as an early ICURe graduate from cohort 2, so a long time ago. I think what ICURe provides for the academics who take part in it over the last 10 years is many things. It is the skills, it is the contacts, it is the bought out time, the protected time to investigate and validate your idea and pivot half a dozen times in some instances. It's also about the legitimacy of what you're doing. So as academics, there are many demands on our time, many things we're expected to deliver. To have something like the ICURe structure and scheme protects you from some of those other demands for a set amount of time so that you can properly dive into this and really get your head around this entirely new and often unfamiliar world of entrepreneurship. So it gives you the time and the skills, it gives you that legitimacy, it gives you, we like titles, we like lines on our CVs, we like to be able to say we've done something, we've achieved something, we've gone into a competition and we've won something, I've won my way onto ICURe. So it sort of speaks to that academic mindset as well as giving the practical support and time to be able to properly explore, because entrepreneurship is something very hard to fit in around the margins of an academic career. You need time to really get your teeth into it, and ICURe helps to do that.
Thanks very much. Beza?
Yes, it's a must for us, actually. We have a stage gate process, like Omar mentioned, and it has to be with the stage gate process right now. We are lucky we have a Scottish enterprise in Scotland, and they also provide a high growth opportunity. So if they don't have the time to do ICURe, if the application deadline is not fitting, so they have to do something equivalent like high growth. Otherwise, it will delay the process. It takes 18 months to 2 years to become a spin-out. And if you're not doing this, an ICURe or anything equivalent, it's going to take more than that. And the start point will be very, very painful, because it's also not just entrepreneurial lead, but also the whole team behind it. It's not a lone journey. You can't be just one person to be a CEO, CTO, CFO at the same time in a new company. You have to have a team. And universities, we do invest in teams more than the project. Of course, the project is important, the intellectual property, asset, yeah, we got that, but the team is the key. And this is the first proof of concept or proof of validation or anything you want to say to test the team. Are they able to cope up with the pressure? Are they able to do that or not? I guess.
Thank you. George?
Hi, so I'm Director of Knowledge Exchange at the University of Nottingham. So we have a portfolio of about 40 spin-out companies. 8 of those have come from ICURe so far. We're doing about 5 new companies a year. At least 1 or 2 of those tend to be ICURe companies. We engaged with ICURe back in 2018. I personally took the first few Nottingham projects through the process. This led me to spend an unnatural amount of time with Kevin, Kath and Selena and the team at Warwick, and since then I've tended to divulge the actual hands-on work to my wider team now. We found it to be extremely beneficial to commercialising university research. We've changed some of the university processes so that they fit ICURe better, so we've got pace. We don't hold things up. We're working at the same pace as ICURe does. That's really important. One thing I just want to mention before I forget is that we focus a lot on spin-outs today, but some of the outcomes we've had from ICURe are not spin-outs. They are new license agreements, for example. We found opportunities we've clarified through the ICURe process. And for example, you'll see a big product launch this year that we co-developed with Moody's, the ratings agency, around some work, expertise the university has in modern slavery, risk in supply chains, for example. So we mustn't forget the other outcomes of ICURe, which are also extremely valuable.
Thanks. And I suppose an important outcome as well is those that don't make it, sometimes it's good to stop them before they go too far, spending time and money on something that they shouldn't be doing.
And that's not a failure either, as we know, but we have to educate our young researchers that that's fine.
Yeah, thanks for that, George. And Rhys?
So you asked what ICURe has done to increase commercialisation, and I would say it's driving a lot of deal flow for our tech transfer office. I would estimate that every successful ICURe candidate we have generates another 7 or 8 inquiries. And James Claypole's here, who is representing, he's exhibiting Ailarian, his spin-out, which we spun out in October, November time, and he's our most recent ICURe exploit successful candidate. And James, I'm having an awful time with your faculty because now they all want to be you. So, so they're all knocking on the door saying, he did it, can we do it?
Yeah.
And it's fantastic for driving our deal flow.
Culture of entrepreneurship, which is what Andrew alluded to earlier on. It starts off very small but grows quickly. Yeah. So 2 horrible questions together but related. In terms of what problems do you see currently in terms of commercialization, and what would you like to see in the future to help you guys commercialize more and better? I'll start off with you, Rhys.
Yeah. So I've worked at 3 different Welsh universities in commercialisation now, and at some previous institutions which were smaller and less commercial, there was a constant need to drum up activity for the tech transfer office. At Swansea, it's totally different. You mentioned the number of cases. I've got a team of 10. We've got 203 open cases right now. And we cannot service them all. We have to say no to certain people. We cannot deep dive every single one. So ICURe gives us an opportunity to do that with bandwidth and frankly with expertise we haven't got in-house. We can say, look, there's a number of fundamental questions that you don't yet know about your market. ICURe's the place to go and find the answers to those questions. So it's fundamental to us. It's our #1 accelerator program we engage with. I don't think we'd survive really without it.
Very good. And George, things that are challenges and things you'd like to see? Yeah.
So it's the stage after we spun out. In the Midlands in particular, we have a challenge with the availability of funding. And we've mentioned these regional funds like Northern Gritstone, for example. In the Midlands, we have Midlands Mineforge, for example, which is trying to raise a large amount of capital at the moment to deploy in our spin-outs. It's extremely challenging to do that, and we're supporting them the best that we can by creating the pipeline that you spoke about. But we need to do that really quickly because these companies are growing and they're going to slow down that growth unless we get that capital into them. So in parallel to Midlands Mindforge, at Nottingham, we're looking at various alumni-backed EIS funds, for example, to try and get those companies really motoring. And another key point to solving some of these infrastructural problems that we have in the Midlands is to try and create that ethos of recycling of talent back into these spin-out companies as well. So, and I was refreshed to hear about creating a better structure for ICURe alumni. We want these people that have been through the process to come back and help the companies that are just starting out. So will solve that problem in advance of that problem arising, that sort of identifying really good talented management in those companies and the capital that they need.
Yeah, thanks very much, George. Basil?
It's not that different what George described, especially if you have a team that goes through engage, discover, explore, exploit, then 300K investment, it looks fantastic. But if university cannot provide a loan or any other investing, so you have to kind of relying on external private investment, and they are not always great. I mean, once, I can actually say this now, I was offered £100,000 for 30% equity, because they are also taking advantage of you at the same time. So that kind of causes a lot of delay, a lot of stress, and building bridges that we want to do, but it just also collapsed bridges in that cases. So it creates a very vulnerable situation for everyone, and it tests everyone. And it tests the team, it tests the relationship between the team and the TTO, and the VC and the university, or the business angel and the university. So it is a very challenging moment, and one of my cases got a loan from the university, but the other couldn't, and it was the family who helped last minute. Otherwise, we were not going to be able to make it. And that's one thing. And the other thing is team. Team is very, very crucial, in my opinion. If team is good, they will bring investment. If team is good, they will bring money. Money brings money as well. So I think that's the key part.
Thank you very much, Basil. Michelle?
And a lot of the comments we've already had from other speakers today talk about pipeline. We've talked about bits of pipeline like growth capital or like diversifying your product range. The bit of the pipeline that really, really worries me, and it's the bit that I spend a lot of time with, is the academics and researchers before they get to you guys, before they even reach the TTO, when they've got an innovation and they're deciding what to do with it. I'm amazed it's taken till 12:40 for this to come up. The sector, the universities in the UK are in absolute crisis. Now, it's not evenly spread across all the universities. There are universities who crisis means maybe recruitment freezes, maybe promotion freezes, maybe not backfilling when people leave. There are other universities, not necessarily the ones you think, not mine, but not necessarily the ones you think, who are in proper existential crisis. Now, when the universities find themselves in this state, they're having to look very, very robustly, as they should, at all of their operations, having to become more efficient, and lots of other words I could use. But one of the things that I am utterly positive is suffering is research. That is the thing that is squeezed, that is the thing that is not adequately funded at this time. And as research suffers, entrepreneurship and innovation suffers. And as our country's research is squeezed and squeezed, if we do not have some of the world's best researchers, and all of our universities do, then that is going to put an absolute stranglehold on that pipeline at its very, very earliest stages. So we're all doing great now. We've got great caseloads, great people coming through, fantastic entrepreneurs at lots of different career stages. But that pipeline, I think, is failing at its earliest stages. And that's what worries me most of all. And we're not going to see it for 5 or 10 years, or maybe less. Solution, I don't think I can fit that into the next 60 seconds. So I'm just going to leave that kind of mic drop. And maybe we'll talk about it over lunch.
Yeah, the goose that lays the golden egg could be goosed.
Yeah, I mean, I take a sort of a slightly different perspective, but it does follow on exactly from what you were saying, Michelle. I think this idea that research institutions and research I find actually problematic in itself. I think that particularly when it comes to the commercialization and the innovation part, effectively, the way I see it is research is the development of IP assets. These are all assets. If you're not producing an IP asset from research, then what exactly is the research for? So I think what I see is there's potentially a scaling problem, right? In the sense that all of this research is being funded and papers are being published and so on. Why isn't that going into this pipeline, this deal flow and becoming commercialized? And I get that not everything can be commercialized, but I think more should be. So there's a huge untapped potential. And I think there's a few things around that. So one is I think IP is misunderstood. I think one of the conversations that I have with academics is sort of like, well, I published this paper and, you know, that's my IP. I actually look at it as the underlying assets that have helped create that paper. So the software, the code, the data, the models, frameworks, and so on. All of those are unique bits of intellectual property, which may not be commercialized in the way that the academic might have thought about it. So I'll try and give you a very quick example. As an academic, is an astrophysicist, models galaxies, and has published award-winning research around it. Actually, the commercial asset was he had come up with a novel way of doing computational fluid dynamics, very fast and efficient way of doing it. So it took that academic to go, actually, commercializing modeling galaxies is going to be quite hard. Actually, some software that does computational fluid dynamics, there's potential in that. We went through the ICURe program and has successfully spun out. So what I would encourage academics to do is think about the underlying IP assets. That leads me to my second point, which is I think institutions could do with having more strategic CIOs, empowering strategic CIOs within the organizations. So what I mean by that is I've come from industry, most of my career has been in industry. And when I came into universities, I was very surprised to see that they're not actually data-driven organizations. You know, people are working on spreadsheets. You know, the files are on a local machine. Some are on OneDrive, some are on a network provider. Code is on local GitHubs. All the IP assets are distributed and are completely undiscoverable. So from a tech transfer perspective, it's like, how do you identify where those assets exist that could potentially be commercializable? So I think empowering a CIO to be able to fix that problem. I have sort of analogy in the sense that it's a bit like an uncle of mine who's got copies of the FT going back to 1980. You know, piles and piles of this stuff. But we think he's probably got a first edition Harry Potter somewhere as well. But we can't find it. It's impossible to find. So I think that's a problem. And super quickly, I'll say that I think there's a sector-wide problem with an aversion to risk and agility. So I think boards need to be far more diverse. I'm talking about academic management, academic boards. They need to be far more diverse, have industry in there to be able to influence the decision-making that's going on there. They need to be comfortable in working in the grey and being more agile in their thinking. And similarly for funders as well, I'm surprised to see that funders at research grant level are asking for Gantt charts. I mean, I don't think I've seen a Gantt chart since 1990. Where is the agility, the agile methodologies being applied? I mean, I think Gantt charts personally is kryptonite. Exactly. So all of that said, I think the future is actually quite promising. There are all of these assets out there. I think universities are IP generating machines. The question is that we need platforms and tools to industrialize them, to make them discoverable in a way that that they can be exploited. So again, a flawed analogy, but university is a bit like content creators, and so what we need is effectively a Spotify or a YouTube to be able to make those assets discoverable. Sorry, that was a very long-winded answer.
Thank you. I think ICURe is part of the Spotify solution. We can, yeah. So, look, guys, thank you very much for your contribution. I'm conscious that it is lunchtime now, and we are literally standing in the way of you and the lunch. So, I'd just like you to give a round of applause to the panel. Thank you.